Hi, in this video we are going to create an AI sorting hat chatbot that will sort us to one of the Hogwarts houses. We are going to use the project from Vercel as our base, and then we are going to adjust it to our needs. Even if you are not very familiar with code, you will be able to repeat this project. Let's now see how it is working. So it is a sorting hat, and it is asking me the questions to identify my Hogwarts house. So the first question is, how do I prefer to spend my free time? And let's say I like to make educational videos on YouTube. I like to make videos on YouTube. It is asking me what type of videos do I make. I answer educational. And now it is asking me what traits do you value most in person. I'm not sure, so I will ask for examples. Not sure, give me example. Loyalty, some kindness. Okay, bravery. I choose kindness. And based on my answers, I'm sorted to Hufflepuff, and this is my house, and it is also showing me the image of Hufflepuff house. This is awesome, and now we are going to create it ourselves. And after we are done, we are also going to deploy it, so our app is working on the internet. Let's go. We are going to use the project made by Vercel as our starting point. They've already done all the heavy lifting for us, so all the API calls and even UI, and we just have to adjust it to our needs. So to make a project based on this one, we first to create our new project following the instructions. So first we create a new app, and then we just add the environment file. So let's do this. We copy this into the terminal. It will ask us the name of our new app, and my new name will be sorting hat. Awesome, my new project is created. I can go inside the folder and open it in Visual Studio Code. Here is my new project. Let's read the following instruction. So it is saying that we need to rename env example to env local. So let's do this also. We find env example here. It is here, and we have to rename it to env local. Then we have to insert OpenAI API key here, and then just run the localhost. So let's find our API keys. When you go to platform openai.com, you can find your API keys here under your account view API keys. And here you can create a new API key, copy it, and then paste it here. Also, it might ask you for OpenAI API organization, although it's not always necessary, but if you don't know where to find it, it is here in settings. You have organization ID. So you can copy this also and paste it here. And we are done with the environment local, so we have to save it, close it, and we are done here. The next thing that we have to do is just to run a localhost. So pin run dev. We open new terminal and run localhost. This is our AI chatbot. This is what was done by Vercel, and we are going to adjust it to our needs. But it is already working. If we ask it something like, tell me a joke, it is telling us a joke. It is working. We have our GPT-3 chatbot. Now what we have to do is to adjust the prompt so our chatbot does what we want it to do, and also clean it up a little bit. So let's start with the prompt. Prompt is located here. If we go to Pages API chat, So here is our call to GPT-3, and here is the prompt. Now it's pretty general, you're a helpful AI assistant, and we want to change it according to our needs. My chatbot is going to be a sorting hat that will sort you to Hogwarts houses. So that's the prompt that I need to create, and I actually prepared it in advance. If we go here, here is my prompt. You are a sorting hat that sorts new students to their Hogwarts houses. You do this by asking them questions to identify their personality and match them with the house. Your task is to identify the user's Hogwarts house, ask one question per message, and this is important because otherwise it is going to ask all the questions all at once. Ask the next question after user answered the previous one, and limit the question to 3, and then let users know which houses they belong to. Of course, we can limit the questions to 6, for example, or 8 if you want their sorting experience to be longer. And as long as GPT-3 already knows a lot about Hogwarts houses, because there were a lot of data about it on the internet by the time that it was training on, I don't have to specify anything. But if you want your chatbot to be specific to your business, you might need to specify something. And if you don't have a lot of data, you can try to fit all the data in one prompt. If you do have a lot of data, then you need to use other techniques, either fine-tuning or building an index. But try first to fit everything to one prompt. Just be careful. If you have a lot of data, you can either end up with a token limit, so it will not let you make this prompt, or it can just be quite costly. So just keep in mind, if you don't have a lot of data, try to feed it in one prompt. If you do have, then you need to use other techniques. For example, if ChatGPT wouldn't know about the sorting hat and Hogwarts houses, I would do something like this. Don't pay attention to the first question now, we are going to use it later. But after the prompt, I would add this information to the same prompt. So the context information, Gryffindor house, and then some information about Gryffindor house, Gryffindor strengths and weaknesses, Hufflepuff house, and information about this house, and so on. So for example, if you're selling something, the training program or anything else, you can just put what you sell here, like your products, and then the information about your products. As long as you don't have a lot of information, so this like from this part to this part, it's not a lot of information. So you can certainly feed it in one prompt and it won't cost you a lot. Even the whole file, where I have like a little bit more examples, yeah, you can fit all this information in one prompt and it will work and it won't cost you much. So just so you understand how much you can fit in one prompt. But in our case now, we don't have to do all the clarification, we just need to ask this prompt. So let's try this. I copy this prompt and I paste it here in the system message. And the way GPT works, it has an array of messages, and each message has role and content. So there are 3 roles. One is system, where you put the information that are instructions for a chatbot. Another one is assistant, which is the answers from the chatbot. And the third one is user, which is what user asks ChatGPT. In this file, we are specifying the first message, which is the system message, system and the content. And then we push it to the messages array. And then we just pass this array to our API calls. So when later user asks more information and the ChatGPT answers more information, we are going to push all this information to the messages array. So we pass all the history to ChatGPT so it knows the content, and in this way it will reply you based on the content that it had before. So that's it that we have to do for now in our API call. Let's try to see if it's working. Let's reload this. Alright, I forgot to change the first message from our AI, so let's do this now before we going forward. Here we add our first system message, but also in our front end we already have the first message. So let's find this. I guess it's in the component. So here we have our app and our index. Here we will change the title and the instructions later, and then we have the chat component, which is here in components. So let's see, chat, and yes, here is our first chat message. As you can see, the role is assistant, and here's our first chat message. So there I'm going to pass my first question. I had it here. Yes, this is my first question. How I am a sorting hat that is going to sort you in one of the Hogwarts houses. How do you prefer to spend your free time? Let's say by asking questions. This will be our first message. Let's save and now test it. Now it is a sorting hat and it is asking how do I prefer to spend my free time. I'd say that I like to make YouTube video. And now it is asking what kind of video do you make, let's say educational, about AI. Which quality do you value most in yourself? I'm a designer, so I'm going to answer that I value creativity. For example, creativity. And based on my answers, I am sorted to Ravenclaw house. Wow! So it is working now. We adjusted our API call message, and we also adjusted the first assistant message. And yeah, it is working. At this point, you can already deploy it to Vercel and have your own chatbot that is based on your data that you feed into the prompt. So now what we're going to do is to clean a little bit the UI, and I'm going to show you also how to make it look like more like you want. And then we're also going to move forward, and I want to have the image of the house also in the response. So I'm going also to show you that. First, let's get rid of this footer and header. And to do this, we go to app. Here's we have our layout. So we don't need layout because, I mean, we would need it if we would build our own header and footer, but we are not going to build anything, so we just make the fragment. We also don't need analytics. So save, and now we don't have this header and footer. Then what else we have to do? We have to change the title and the instructions. So let's do this. And we had it, I guess, in index. Yes, so we had an index, the title that will be different. Instead of OpenAI GPT-3, we are going to say this is the sorting hat. And then there are instructions that I'm also going to change. All right, let's see what we have. Yes, we changed the title, and let's actually bring emoji to the front. It doesn't look good at the end. That's what we have. I also don't need this. Now we are going to change how this all looks. To do this, we first have to adjust the chat itself. Now the maximum width is 2/3 on desktop, and I don't need this. Probably it will be, let's say, 5, 6. Yeah, now it's a little bit bigger and I like it more. Let's say I also want to change the background. So let's try to add it here in the page itself, or probably even here. Let's see, no, in index. We are going to add background. They're using sync, so we stick with sync and then just add the black background, and then text will be white. Let's see what we have. You can see the page itself is not full screen, so let's fix this. We added minimum height will equal screen, and minimum width will also equal screen. Now we have to fix our chatbot. So I was wrong changing something here. I don't need anything there. Instead, I'm going to work more with the page. So I have two sections. I want to have the padding left and padding right, which is together px, and let's say for mobile it will be this, and then we have to change the width of the section. So for desktop the width will be 2/3, and the same for this section. Alright, and I think it's even too much. It will be half. Alright, and then we have to justify everything by center. Oh no, this justify. I actually forgot. Let's go to Tailwind and let's find align items, and we have items center. Yes, so this is what we have now, and I'm showing you so you know how to adjust the style of the chatbot. Here you can find all the documentation for Tailwind. If you want to change something, for example, you want to change text color, you can just search it here. For example, I want to change a text color, and I just go here and see how to change it. And actually this is not right. These are the Tailwind styles that you can apply. Now let's also change a little bit how our chatbot is looking, because yeah, you cannot see anything. I've asked it to be text white, so now it is white on white. You cannot see anything. So instead of first thing 600, I think it should be something brighter. For example, 300. Yes, here. And now we go inside our chat to change the styles also here. Let's see first what we have here. This is actually our chat itself, and here we make our first assistant message. And then we have our input, that if we input something, we are going to call send message with our input. So where is send message? Send message is more down, so we have our main function that we are exporting, and here is our function set message. And this function is making an API call, so it is referencing API chat that we have modified before, this one. And it is also adding a new user message to the new messages array that we also discussed before. We get our response, and we also push to the messages array. So here we have our messages. We push our assistant answer. This is what is happening here, but we are not going into the details because here we just want to make a fast prototype. So let's see what we have in terms of the front end here. We map our messages into the chat line, so every message will be the chat line, and we have also our input. We have the instructions that are too dark, and we are going to make it lighter. And we also need to adjust input a message that is the component that is written here. Now it has too big margin and too small button, so let's change it a little bit. ML margin left will be 3 and width will be let's say 40. I don't know how big it is, probably smaller, and let's add also height, which will be bigger. Now it's a little bit bigger, and I also want to reduce margin top to something smaller. Alright, so I think that's it for the input, and now we need to change this, because this is still not visible. By the way, I also want to change the border. So let's find the border itself. Will be here. We need to make it darker. And now let's go to the chat line itself. Let's go here. Here's the chat line, and here we mostly have just our front end. And this is the state of our chat lines. Background is white here. We probably want to make it darker. So we are also going to use sync, and let's make it 800 and see. Became darker. We are going to change the border also to the darker version, and we are going to change this. So here we have our thing, and if we hover, it is underline, which we don't want, and we actually don't need a here, so we are going to delete this, and then we are going to change from gray 900. Why it's gray? Let it be sync, and let it be 600. Let's see. No, 400. All right, and I want to make it bold and probably not so big. And let's add also margin bottom. Alright, and then for the text itself, so here's the text. I don't want it to be semi-bold, I want it to be normal, and I want it for all the messages. So here we have, if it's assistant, it will have this style. If it's not assistant, which is a user, it will have this style. And as you can see, if I type something, I forgot to change the colors here, but we are going to change it in a second. So here's the style for the user, and I don't like it. I want them actually to have the same style, so I'm not going to put anything here. I can either delete all of this. So let's actually delete different styles and have just one style, like this. Font normal. All right. And now I also have to change the color of the input, because it is white and the input itself is white. Let's go back to chat. We have our input message. Let's find it. And here we have to add the text color. And now we have our text color. This is working. The only thing that I also want to do is to remove this balance wrapper. So what this balance wrapper is doing is trying to make the width according to the text inside. And I don't like this because when chatbot answers, you have like very strange jumping behavior. So now I've removed this, and I think now it's much more nicer. Alright, it's asking me which Hogwarts subject I am most interested in. I don't actually remember them, so I would say that about Fantastic Beasts. I think that's something that Hogwarts was teaching. So yes, I'm again in the Ravenclaw. Okay, awesome. And now I want also to have an image here. So how do I make an image here? What I'm going to do, I'm just going to search for Ravenclaw, for the word Ravenclaw, and when I find it, I'm going to insert the image. And I'm going to do this for all the houses. So I'm not going to adjust my prompt, I'm just going to search for a particular word in the AI answer. But sometimes you need to adjust the prompt, and I did it for my another project. I'm going to show you here on the sorting hat example. So let's say I'm selling sorting hats, and I have different sorting hats and different images of it. And I want my AI to actually give me the React component with the particular property, so the product name. And that's what I'm just asking in the prompt. I'm saying that when you mention a particular product, insert a React component in the answer. And I give it the example how it looks like with the property product name. And I'm saying that product name can have several values: smart citizen hat, essential hat, and premium hat. And then I also make an example of how the response can look like. And then I'm going to do the same. I'm going to search for this React component, and based on the property here, I'm going to insert this React component. And then I just need to clean this part from the AI answer. But we are going to use the simpler version now here. So we just want to search for these words. Let's first understand where we have to do this. Let's go to our chat, and we have to go to chat, and let's see where we can add it. So we are sending the message. This is not what we need. We are mapping the messages here. So let's go to the chat line. Here's the content that we are passing, and then we turn this content into formatted message. Let's see what it does. So it calls the function convert new lines, which is here. So what it does, it just reads the content, this one, and then when it sees /n, it is going to insert BR in it. So that's what it does. And what we can also do, we can add here another function that is searching for particular words. I am going to create a new constant, which I will call Hogwarts house. And then I'm going to call another function. So for me, the function will be called find house. And I'm going to also pass content there. It was actually suggesting me to do this. So I'm going to accept it. It is now saying that I don't have this function, so let's add this function also. Constant find house. And for now, let's just return Ravenclaw. Now I hard-coded the name of the house, but then we are going to change it. Let's first figure out how to insert the image now in the answer. To do this, I have to create a new component that I will add here. So let's add a new component called house card. GitHub Copilot is actually suggesting me the right thing, but we don't have any props. And for now, let's return a fragment and the text. Close this and export function. We also need to specify the properties. Let's build the interface that will specify what house can be. So we type house. And GitHub Copilot suggesting us that it is string, but in fact we know that it's not just a string. It can be either Ravenclaw. GitHub Copilot is actually great at making suggestions. That's funny, even not related to the code. So I think that's what we have. And in case we don't find something, it can also be unidentified. Let's see if it's working. We have our house card, and later we are going to have our images here, and we also hard-coded Ravenclaw here. So let's first add our new component, house card, to the answer. Here we have our answer, and let's say if we have the Hogwarts house, if we have it, if we found something, then we are going to insert our component. Our component is called house card, and that's what we are going to insert. And we have to pass that property into the house card, which will be house. It is saying that string is not assignable to our type. Let's now just quickly fix it so it will be string, and then it should work. Let's see if it's working. So now we just hard-coded Ravenclaw, and we are adding it with the new component, which is just the text for now. It's actually working, so we have our Ravenclaw here. That's what we have. Now let's make the images out of it. So instead of just Ravenclaw, I want to have an image. I put everything into div with the margin top, small margin top, and then I close the div. And then instead of just Ravenclaw, we are going to add images. So I've prepared images here, and I'm going to add it into public. We have public here. We add a new folder, which is image, and we'll pass our image here. We have images with the houses, and now we are just going to pass them here. Wow, GitHub Copilot is actually suggesting me already what I want to do. If house is Ravenclaw, then we don't need a div here anymore, but we can add the image instead. So instead of div, we will add image with src images Ravenclaw. GitHub Copilot is actually great. Let's see if it's working. Nope, it's not working because it is calling images, and we have our folder that is called image. Let's change it here, and we have very big images everywhere. So first let's make it smaller. We just adjust the width, for example, to 64, and let's see. Alright, I think this image is great, but we have it in all the answers, and we need it just once. But I think we have it in all the answers because we just hard-coded the value here. So Hogwarts house is always Ravenclaw. Every time AI or user types a message, We have our Hogwarts house that is always Ravenclaw. That's not what we want. Instead, we want to find the house and return something to Hogwarts house only if we find something. So I actually want to make an experiment and ask ChatGPT to do this for me, to do this function for me. Because if it will be able to do this, then you just go to ChatGPT and ask it to code for yourself. Let's go to chat and ask it. Alright, I'm asking it to make a JavaScript function that is looking for substrings that are Ravenclaw, Hufflepuff, Gryffindor, or Slytherin, and return it when it found it. So let's see if it will be able to do this. It is suggesting the loop here, but let's try to do this through match. Alright, I like this function much more, so I'm just going to copy it. I think it makes sense. So instead of returning Ravenclaw, we are now using regex, and of course we don't have string, but we have text here, and we are searching for one of those. It is finding one of these substrings and put it in array, and we are returning just the first item of the array, or if we don't find anything, then we return null. So let's see how it will work now. Let's go to localhost, and now we have our image only when Ravenclaw is mentioned. So let's do the same for all other houses. Now we have only Ravenclaw, but we need to do the same for other houses. So we have 4, and instead of Ravenclaw, we have Gryffindor. And I have the image of Hufflepuff here, and then Slytherin. Now we have all our houses. Let's see how it is working now. What if I want to go to Slytherin? Yes, it is working, but it is also inserting image here into my response, which I don't want it to do, so let's fix also this. We have chat line, and here we have if Hogwarts house, then do this. But instead of just Hogwarts house, we say that if Hogwarts house and also the role is assistant. Do this. And now I don't have the image in the user message, but I only have it in the AI message. Awesome, so I guess that's it for this video. Now we just need to deploy it and make it work on the internet. So I'm going to show you also how to do this. To do this, we have to create a Git repository. So let's go to GitHub and make a new repository. So I want to make a new repository, which will be sorting hat. It is public, okay. Create a repository. Now I have to push everything to this repository, so I just copy what Git suggested me, and in the new terminal I'm just going to insert it. Let's see if it worked. It did, so I pushed everything to Git. That's awesome. Oh, I forgot one thing. We have to remove in Vercel, we have to remove ignore command, because otherwise Vercel is not going to deploy our changes when we push it to Git. Let's push it again. We add a version to Git and commit it. Remove ignore. Alright, and now we have to deploy it on Vercel. So we go to Vercel. Here we have to add a new repository, which will be a project. If you didn't have an account on Vercel before, it will suggest first to connect your Git to Vercel, but it is pretty easy to do so. I actually don't see my new repository there, so let's see what I have to do. I have to probably adjust Git permissions. And here I have to add my new repository. So my new repository is sorting head. I'm just allowing Vercel to see this repository. So now I should see my new repository. Yes, and I just import it. And what I also have to do is to add environment variable here. I have my environment variable here, and they are not committed to Git, so you won't see them on Git, and you have to add them into Vercel. So you just copy everything and paste everything. It will pass all values from your local environment to here. And now I'll just click deploy. Alright, we have our sorting head working on the internet. Let's see. Here is our domain that Vercel gave us for free. Awesome. And then let's see if it's working. How do I prefer to spend my free time? Making YouTube videos. What kind of videos? Educational. Am I a dreamer or doer? Let's say I'm not sure. Okay, how about this? It is actually making the follow-up question, which is awesome. So I've asked it to limit it to 3, but I wasn't able to answer it, so it is making the follow-up question. So, let's say depends what it will answer. It will just give me the next question, which will be about loyalty, bravery, intelligence, or ambition. Let's not confuse it anymore. We'll just choose something from what it suggested. And yeah, again, I'm in Ravenclaw. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video. See you next time.